True love is the answer. All right. So, in our art of detection, we want to be sure that we are sensing appropriately. That is to say, we want to have our orientation so we understand where things are coming from. I would suggest actually on your own, each of you joining in this meditation, take the time to write on paper and basically plan for yourself to discover the truth. Make a plan to find the answer. Make a plan, and you can draw it out and invite, Earth to speak the truth, etc. And that's it's sort of, I want to say that, everything, it's not just all chaos because we do have pain and pleasure. We also have, understandings of like a society that's working properly and it's healthy and stuff. And we have images which are scary and not the same. So it's really quite rude to just look at the universe and be like, oh, it's all chaos. Therefore, I can't find the truth, or truth is that's actually not true. But it is that is the sort of mindset of the elder block, which is part of the problem. And I'm here to talk about that now. Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I'm speaking directly to you guys because I understand we're at a point where we could really do some good for the world, and it's important to be a hero. And so that's why we're tuning in and meditating because we want to get to the truth. And so I've been thinking about it, and it's time for me to do a few more revealings. But it's like, don't worry about it. I think I've got it under control. It's not it's not too confusing, but it's sort of a thing like I'm asking you to understand something that has been like the trouble for all of you men and your confusion. Um, I mean, my relationship, my experience with the men, be it not so, but is that they are confused and they want it all to be a joke. They think that, if they make the serious good stuff into a joke, then the women and children will be happy. But you guys basically could potentially be double wizards. But, right now, I think your behavior is a little bit it's like if you guys are go around and be like, yeah, this guy he threw something at Trey, so we have to be careful because that's the age. That's 2019, bro. As celebrities got to be aware of these people who talk about things that we never heard of before. So let's armor up and imagine a world where the artwork is smarter than you. And so Trey Parker might say to Matt, like, I feel like South Park, the art form, I can feel them. They course through my veins, of course, but I feel like they know this guy or they know something about it, and I'm just trying to figure it out. As a mansplaining, obviously this is not appealing because I know you guys, I know what you're like. And I'm trying to change your conjecture, which is leading to a war with a nefarious group. And they want Trey to not do this thing so that they can go in that direction. And they want me to not explain to you relevant information. So, can we defeat both of those problems now by finding the truth? Will you listen to what I'm saying and go to a place of understanding? All right, so now we're in that magical place. Trepan seed, superconducting this meditation. So, part of my physical arrival hinged on the reality that I must be born an innocent child. Otherwise, my incarnation would be a hypocrisy. And so this leaves me with the burden of evidence. Like I need to prove something um, because there aren't intelligent scientists on Earth who are able to make the appropriate measurements and detections. In fact, they were hardwired against actually following the ascension of the sequence, which equates to a stable universe. So anyway, and it even took me a little while to understand that I was very different from the other people around me. It's like my faceplate, my mohawk. It's a cross section that super records my experience, but it doesn't do only that. Actually, in the first instance of my arrival, up until a certain moment, all right, so have you guys seen that Simpsons movie? The Simpsons movie. Well, in that movie, there's a part where Springfield just goes out of control. And so to deal with that situation, they drop a dome. Look, Trey, in the path of detection, there's like all these different sort of things that appear to be chaos, but it's just like a long list of things. But see, you're incarnate and you have hands. So you understand it's just like, you could be like, oh, I'm still angry at you because of what you were saying about this and that. And I'm like saying, you understand how, you can resolve those, all of you. There's a particular reason I'm talking to South Park, and it has to do with The Simpsons. And so I'm trying to explain how the artwork is more intelligent than humans, but the man block, a generational shift, is right at the cutoff between my generation and Trey Parker's. Like, it's like maybe my big brother, Trey Parker, and Matt Stone might possibly understand this if they are daring enough to believe that South Park characters and Simpsons characters have a life force or a chi, or that they have some importance in the universe. And who else is going to believe that except the two of you? It's upon you to father these things. And what we have is a man block, which is refusing the certain sequence as a mindset. And I can break it off of the children because of the generational shift. And there's a particular reason why I'm trying to work with the men of the fall, the men of the apocalypse. The reason I'm trying to work with them is because of one person, Robin Williams. Now, if you would allow me to explain, we're trying to go to a place we've never been to before. And many of you begin to understand the conclusion here that we should produce the green wolf. But when you get close to that, you start to shimmer and shake away, and that's the infection of the man block, right? And it's all this crap around me. And even nature, you know, is complaining about this man block. And all the children are saying, stop polluting the earth, stop swearing like that, stop doing that. Like about Trey Parker and Matt Stone and South Park is like a survival unit emergency like iron lung that informs people and cheers them up through the apocalypse and says, "You guys don't be afraid to say what you think or just have, say whatever you want, be yourself, and here's some shortcuts and some tips and stuff." I mean, we're here, interacting with a civilization or like a society block, and it's like fascinating, and it's like it's a social thing, but like, why is it that you guys are okay with this lame idle person? They're so look at how I can so the feeling isn't there. Don't you guys have any spirits or anything? So, South Park is a very like, hey, 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 is this huge cheerleader in the mind of Earth. And if you guys produce the Green Wolf, this could actually transform humanity and Earth. And so I'm going to tell you the story about the Simpsons, right? So this giant dome comes down on Springfield, and Homer Simpson goes, "Dome." And Lisa Simpson has a boyfriend named Colin from the movie, the Simpsons movie. So when I was a child, I actually had an orb of light that was as high as the atmosphere. So actually, uh, a dome like the size of a rainbow that be about the almost the size. I think just about the size of Massachusetts. You know, where Massachusetts is a rectangle, I think the dome would have been like this big. And that's actually, if you look at the map, that's what caused the shadow light. And then there's actually a pattern relating to the arm of Cape Cod where you can see in the topographical maps, there's like a staggering there, and I sort of know what that's about. It's relating to a language that only the self-fractal can speak. And the self-fractal has spoken of Trey Parker in the Ware map. In fact, I was led into the Ware map and then surprised with the reveal after the time, which inspired me to then run for president. You understand? So, okay, so um, from inside of my dome, it looks like a dome, but actually it was an orb that went all the way into the darkness of Earth, into places where the rock is deep and spiritual. And so I have a very integral relationship with the identity, the gravity of Earth on a very personal level. And it's my incarnate task to do the most that I can with what we have. But if I die, then there's a different system that goes on which completely strips any authority from humanity and makes it like kind of like what you guys are fantasizing. It's like, oh, it's just chaos, man, and we're just consumers. You know, you lack parental care for Stan and Kyle and Eric, who have been working so hard through the apocalypse, a nightmare season, and they've been cheering people on and raising up the sons of South Park. And I'm here doing what's right, and you guys want to blame me for the chi pattern in Trey. Trey's like, "Oh, I've seen my shadow," and he got surprised, and Matt doesn't know what to do. So it was actually that Simpsons movie that moved me in away from being a nerd burglar into working with the animation chips into a Smurf burglar. But you know, that's the obvious thing is people think that I'm using those microchips to do something bad, but they're just like a little cheerleader. Oh, he's perverted. You know, oh, thanks. You know, you think I'm fiery? Okay. You think I'm blue? You know, when people make love, they glow blue. And I know why that is. And it's actually an important piece of wisdom. So there's these many blocks of wisdom, like the universe image being in our spine, which is empowering. And these are the educations that humanity is lacking, and we could give to them easily in if we produce the green wolf with the blue wolf, Trey Parker, and you know, give a hero to the Jews. But if you know, with Brent Clockers and Matt Stone, completing an arc of your lifetime and giving them a real hero, the first Jedi. And this is, you know, like a karmic availability to the Jewish community. And it's for Matt to refuse the karma of the Jew or accept, but it does not involve Jesus Christ. It's more like Jesus was like plan A and we're like in plan B. Okay? So all things, you know, it's not it's about like it's about if you were a real hero and a real man, then you could do this thing and give everyone freedom and have such a revolution that the behavior would complete your transcendence. And so, what I'm talking about doing with you, Trey, doesn't involve something like you're like, oh, have I injured the fabric of reality? No, I'm on it. I'm taking care of it. I'm a professional. There's this temptation where other spirits want to make you guys attack me and accuse me of reckless behavior. Okay, that's the hack because you have even in waterborne spellcasting, I'm completely uh, impervious. But even specifically about my detailed plans, I'm I'm not putting something on Trey that it would be inappropriate or spooky for him. But he should be having a revelation, and he's like, things around me are different and stuff. But Trey, even when have you ever seen like a movie that seemed to have been like there's an actor and there's like a script written for him, but then you see like even like the cameraman and all these things like they all start like gravitating and like performing into that lead actor, whether it's Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp. I'm just trying to say there's like this thing where I'm just saying, Trey, don't get spooked out. Like you're on the verge of a really important franchise film uh, series that would put you through the roof, and other people around you they're just saying, oh, I am sorry that I edited your footage down to that in that way that made it look like you were being spiritual about South Park. Honestly, we just thought that that was the best footage. We thought that that was what we really thought was interesting. Do you understand? They're trying to help you, Trey, and you want to make it spooky, but you just need to be an adult. And you realize that uh, I'm a lone wolf. I'm doing all this by myself. And so uh, if you're not sensing courage from me, then you're not really listening. You need to be an island. You need to not be asking someone else's approval, but you need to radiate the consciousness, which is the solution the garden, the women, and the children need. And so you're a mountaintop, and you are responsible for your karma. And your instincts were perfect with South Park and all the works you've been doing. And you're right that you do have an actual connection with the Mormons, although at this time it would be almost be I think the Mormon spirit would say, Trey, don't throw away your opportunity to the Christ body because it looks like this is a different thing. That would be the mature thing for their spirit to say. But in the little like, the way Mormons are treated, like I think Mormons are great because they're talking about the history of Earth and the church and stuff, and they're part of the Christ body, trying to figure out things and stuff. And I think you're right. They're very lovely people. They love a lot, and I think that is actually from Trey Parker. But that doesn't mean it's not a sign that Trey Parker has clandestine, predeterminately failed this opportunity. Okay, you just need to broaden your mind a little bit and understand the realms of friendship and camaraderie a little bit more, and believe that all the cool forces belong to the agents of light. And whilst this is like an early time, a dark season when there's confusion and children who are uh, acting like robots, it's an opportunity for a great man to be a beacon of light and provide wisdom to the community. So is that there are certain reasons that I was able to detect from inside of my orb of light that I was in the middle of the orb of light. And in fact, when I traveled, um, there's an occurrence with the sky where clouds would travel along with the top of my orb. On a bus, I'd look up and clouds would travel along. When the bus would stop, the cloud would stop. Okay, honestly, that only happened once, but yeah, that was enough to spook me. This other time, I was looking up and I could see elf lightning shocking the top of my shield. And I asked one of my friends to see if, and he looked up and he was like, "Holy shit, what is that?" And it was like really weird for him, but it was sort of this thing that I know about that is sort of one of the flavors of my peculiar body. So The Simpsons actually had a correlation where they had cognition and they were able to communicate a message about a dome, like it's because that's what is visible, but there were no Earth scientists that were able to see my dome. In fact, I'm sure that my dome was probably photographed because it would be visible from the side. It's just sort of like this an arching, uh, slightly lighter fog. At any rate, so the Simpsons were talking about the dome, and then they had this love interest for Lisa, whose name was Colin, and that was enough for me to understand that it was like Americana or The Simpsons. They were at least somehow seminal aware of my occurrence, and so that emboldened me, and I started, going deeper and deeper into my research, and because of my unique ability, I'm sort of able to remember the critical details and then piece them together. But it's sort of like the brain and the osmosis from mankind is a bunch of mush and is not really constructive. There's just all this swirling anxieties and angers and different ways to vomit and refuse. Like, I'm the one in control to say no to you. But actually, Trey Parker would have control over the situation if he just communicated properly with me. And, like, I'm working hard to do the right thing for humanity, but they're just not willing to prevent war, parent the children, protect the women, protect the earth, do what they should, etc. And I'm hoping that Trey Parker, Matt Stone is this dynamic duo that can break the mind spell. And you think that that's the fiction, is that mankind is having a problem with its elder block. That's fictional, man. Well, someday you'll understand what I'm saying. But right now, you guys are not the same as other men. And it's time for you to be brave and a hero and embrace your identity, for that is the value that I uphold, is who you truly are. And so there will be no hacking, there will be no mishandling, and you should probably sober up in your mind and explain to your own vicinity to not be feeding you the poison evidence because you don't want to be following the evidence like creeping around in a trail of corpses. Like, oh, that's my power, but it's being totally manipulated to make me think that I'm paranoid. You need to vocalize and tell them, stop doing that. I know I'm integrated with humanity. There's a potential here, but you guys are pushing too hard on me, right? Of course, it'd probably be like you'd say, I'm pushing too hard, whatever. It's just like, you know, sloppy um, problem. But with exhaustion and stuff, and it's like, oh, we're these heavy people, and I've got to wash myself and stuff. That's actually supposed to be our empowerment. Like, oh, we can, if we just produce this cartoon, that would give all the divine properties that's needed to do everything that we're talking about is really important. But instead, what we're programmed as is like, oh, because it's too much work it's this too much work, therefore avoid this project because conservation of energy. But actually, we're supposed to be hardworking people. All right. So several years ago, it was very bad. And I could tell in the signs that the remote hacking project had not been designed to stop when they see like an angel of light. They aren't looking for a child at the end of the rainbow. They are looking for And, they've lost sight of what they're looking for, which is why the remote hackers are not appropriate to Earth residency. Okay, it's about who lives here and who is functioning on Earth. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing out their bad ghost technology and trying to raise up the human grade technology, which is cleaner, more efficient, more intelligent, more powerful, more relevant, actually caused by human hands, actually part of the family unit, actually knows what an appropriate reaction would be, and is actually a divine angel of light, a child. And so I'm raising children. But you guys want to like find the chink in my armor and get angry at me and then blame me? I'm asking you to father America, and somehow this is confused. So I had what could be seen as a dome of light, but the humans had no idea what this was or any significant understanding. In fact, they were hardwired to avoid the detection of their opportunity, which is why I'm sort of a peculiar person and I'm just giving you the opportunity straight in communication English words for the hope that you might understand that this isn't a mistake, but it's something interesting, something wonderful has happened to Trey Parker. He could become double wizard. And then everyone who's ever like who Trey loves would suddenly have all of their spiritual needs met and armor up. They'd be healthy and stuff. And in their afterlife, they'd always be Trey Parker would be paying for all their shenanigans. But somehow, when you're at the source of it, you can't see it. And so you guys get all higgly piggly about building a treehouse in the afterlife and being intelligent about your investment there. South Park is brilliant, but you need to cap it with double wizard achievement where you not only will you be introducing the Jewish hero, which completes Matt Stone's karma, but you'd also be introducing everything else, and it would be Trey Parker's thing. Right. So it came a point when it was obvious that the remote hackers were hardwired, and they weren't designed to actually stop their plan, or like the evidence of a child of light was not going to turn them away. You understand? So I actually had to change something in my body because the humans around me also were a reflection of that climate, and they were also speaking in the same tone that they are not able to deviate from a certain system of the down. And so I realized that what I needed to do is because my orb presence on Earth was changing interheliosphere static math. Basically, there's like a new type of frequency there. And because they had space fever, they took it in a certain way. And so, you guys, if you could take this in the right way and be constructive, it would be an epiphany and enlightenment for mankind. And not only that, but you would be the adjunct, you're the one that converted this information into something that's healthy and digestible to humanity, the blue wolf. So what I had to do is I had to actually change my anatomy to change the pulsar signal even in the universe so that the data would read that they had been successful in eliminating the child of light. And so what I did is I realized first of all, okay, I'm a unique specimen and there's no human that can actually pair with me. They're all just these really simple characters. So I couldn't find true love whilst I was during that time. And so what I did is I said, all right, I'm going to destroy part of my body. Basically, I was going to commit suicide. And what that would entail is that I would transfer my power partially into my eternal bride, but also duplicate my powers into the Halloween twins, the Vampire King and the Demon King. And so I actually I because I was getting well, my importance was detected by like chatbots and stuff. Like there were governmental uh projects with technology where they could sort of detect me, and I was starting to there was some weird activity and I had to roll out. And so I got myself arrested, and then when they heard my story, they put me into the asylum. And when I was in the asylum is when I came up with this plan. It's basically like a wind up thing that I set the permissions of like what it is to do, and then I wind it up, and then it winds up until it aligns and happens. And when that actually happened, uh, my my dome, my orb of light ruptured from my body and went to the size of Earth and covered the Earth, in fact, with um, a force field of divine light, which changed the atmosphere of the conditions of living on Earth. And it was in that season that Robin Williams took his own life. And so it's that humanity was trying to speak the voice and the agony of Earth, that the child of Earth, the natural function summoned orb of light, would have to do this thing in order to prevent the apocalypse and the bad stuff. And so it was successful, but in a way, my powers are slightly augmented. But when I spoke to you, the first time I spoke to you, Trey, I was in the orb of light, and so you can understand. Maybe you have some insight on like who I am as a person from between here and there. So, like between the Simpsons and the Marge Simpson in the frowning Margaret, and she's sitting right on the arm of Cape Cod. And a lot of you guys want to say I'm doing something inappropriate, perverse, but in fact, I'm supplying uh, fair the armor, the fairy kingdom armors. Like your body can generate little fairy lights and stuff, but if we're being hacked, uh, the little fairy lights that we create can be absorbed, and then you're possessed. And that's what's wrong with the man block. But I was able to work with the Simpsons and other, Batman and stuff, so that the kids are able to at least not have their natural light enzymes be harvested by a dark roving technology pollution bubble that was like haunting Earth. Um, so the Simpsons were like trying to, be psychic and talk about things that are important. And in the Simpsons movie, they actually did it. And I was like, whoa, it's the Simpsons movie. I mean, of course, like that's like their flagship. So, at the time it was very advanced, and it had information pertaining to me. So that was actually the first microchip I made interacting with a societal block. The next one was Batman, and after Batman was the South Park one. Yeah. So South Park is supposed to be common sense, and this is on top of the superhero Batman, and that's on top of the achievement of the family values of The Simpsons. So it was sort of like humanity is sort of like we can hear the agony of Earth, and so Robin Williams, as sort of the he was really the epiphany of mankind for several years, if not for an entire generation. And for him to communicate the Dead Poets Society, the ultimate word of his own life. That was, because he was actually on my council of, you know, spirits and voices. And I was very close with Robin. And so um, Robin's final word to me was a sort of ferocious battle cry where he was trying to say, God damn it, I can hear what you're saying. God. And that's why I honor my father, Robin Williams, in my name, Randolph Pan Williams. And it's all part of a super system which is not out of control, but it does hinge on certain things, such as the production of the green wolf. And so I cannot give wings to the Robin Williams without Trey Parker, because it's whether or not humanity is involved with the ascension that Jesus Christ was talking about, or if you guys are, you know, uh, corrupt. And the thing I'm uh, saying, like Trey would be double wizard, it does not mean that he'd be like, oh, suddenly I'm dangerous or suddenly I have weird powers. No, Trey, you will be parented, because the truth is so like I'm a very advanced wizard, so I'm able to do this stuff, and you're like, you see that, and you're like, you expect me to do that? No, 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 no. I expect Trey to be Trey. That's the value, and that's the whole trick of the universe. It's like a value hidden in plain sight. And the fact is, Trey, that the evidence will be right before you, and the importance is right before you, and there's no tricks. It's visual. It's what's being communicated. So you guys have great roots in America. You can reap this harvest and save the day if you're willing to produce the green wolf. So essentially, you might be like, well, I don't want to sit around thinking about heaven. That's fine. Just be yourself. I'm saying, like, you will see it, and you will have the evidence, the ability to input what you want when you're seeing it. Vis-a-vis, when you're the blue wolf, you're going to be like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I like this. It's always going to be something you can understand, Trey, and embrace that. Embrace that you can understand stuff and that you're communicating it to humanity. Oh, I'm just saying, like, you'd be like, well, I mean, like, if we're going to be personal and you're talking about like afterlife and stuff, what about that? Trey, you will understand. I'm telling you that you will cross that bridge when you get to it, and there's just no reason to rush. I mean, you really bless yourself, you know, you can really bless yourself and be like, oh, wizard magic, all the precautions and heaven stuff I want, dee 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 dee, ha 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 ha, and then you run over here, and then, like, thousands of years later, you're looking back and you're like, oh, god damn, that gave me so much permissions. I was able to, like, it gave me like more plumbing. So I was able to really kind of understand myself and just orient yourself with yourself. Be like, okay, I want to increase my ability to understand, or, just make yourself the way you want to be. Because the blue eyes actually are characters who are obsessed with, uh, what do you call it? Like cybernetic, but changing. Uh, uh, what do you call it? Modification, uh, uniqueness, identity as the power, and as something that you work on. You're like, you're working on yourself, and so, on a level that is elemental, the blue-eyed angels should excel at what I'm talking about. Modifying yourself, and then, becoming more and more well oriented with the environment because of results. You're like, you sent something out, and it comes back to you in like a billboard. You're like driving, and out of the corner of your eye, you're like, shit, like you see a fairy, and you're like, what? In a flash of light, and then like 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 it's just highlighted, and you're like, oh, that's the answer. Why is it coming at me like while I'm driving? Like, it's almost like there's this like oppression blanket like on people, and the soup is down, and so like the answers have to like squeak back at me like a sniper rifle through, like, why can't I have a nice pleasant vision like while I'm dreaming? Or maybe that's just not the environment. So you guys need to wake up and be like, oh, depression is not normal. Depression is not what's up. So at any rate, it says, when my orb expanded to the size of the Earth, there's actually a lot of evidence there. One thing is that, um, you know, there's no higher place, there's no greater place to go in the universe than Earth. Earth is the holy planet. We are number one. we are number one in the entire universe. It's the self-stone planet. The self-fractal is printed on one planet only, and that's the holy planet. And these UFOs, uh, they missed their generation's calling in the Pilgrim chapter, and they screwed it up. And sort of, these the it's a story, and there's actually evidence that I can explain this whole thing. But the opportunity is really for Trey Parker. And so you guys, in your own clunky way, have performed as such. But for me, like Robin Williams was expressing that he could hear the voice of Earth and his panged ultimate expression of pure fury and anger and wrath and fury that the gatekeeper, the orb of light, the bringer of light, would in fact have to sacrifice his orb so that we wouldn't all die. And so around that time, 2014, was when Trey started uh, noticing Robin Williams on a new level. Okay. And so here we are today, and you guys are excited about the Comic Con. I just want to breathe peace on that. You guys go and have a good time, and you do your thing with the fan base. But I'm doing something with the fan base also, and it's a bit more about their well-being, and it's a little bit about their immediate needs of an enlightened vacuum after Robin Williams committed suicide. But you don't understand the Robin Williams committed suicide. You think I'm being inappropriate to Robin. You think you have a better relationship with him than I do. Okay, but I set things up so that Robin Williams will be given immortality if Trey Parker produces me, but this is not something you guys sense. You don't feel urgency with your family, and you don't show comprehension of the earth, and so you laugh at the earthquakes. What a joke. Look at Barry, a Hurricane Barry. I come out and I tell you guys, my generation was buried. We were hacked. You start laughing, and then a hurricane rises up just to bury the whole feeling. Just put those feelings away, man. I don't even want to think about it. It's too much hard work. Whew. Man, you guys have been working so fucking hard. And you think that, like, I'm doing something wrong, you're getting possessed, you're getting hacked. When, like, the ultimate hero, the Jew that brings. Okay, so I worked with Brent Clockers, and I was able, because actually, when I was in the hospital and at my worst place in my life, and my orb exploded, actually, Brent instinctually, he and his partner, his fiance, they actually moved out without even talking to me. And it turned out that because she wanted to go to Tufts veterinary school, and then so like when Brent and because I just disappeared, and I got arrested and I got thrown in the asylum for like a year. And I'm here like after recovering from that and being like, oh, okay, let's get back to work. Anyway, for some reason, like Brent and his fiance moved to they're like 2 blocks away from the asylum that I got sent to. So I knew that like God was saying that Brent was an angel. And he worked with me and helped me to get what I needed. And he'd take me out of the place and stuff. And it's hard to explain between friends and stuff about why that's important. But after that, I commissioned him with an art piece that would extract the sword of light, because I knew that that was the next step. And it actually worked. And Brent was like really surprised that it worked. And he didn't really have enough support from anyone to understand that he'd done something great. And I'm wondering if Matt Stone is that person, if he can be a father to a hero America. That's why I thought you guys would be so perfect for this. So, really, you need to resource yourself and have brilliance and excitement and not sadness. Because Robin Williams' soul is relying on you to produce the Green Wolf. Humanity, in fact, is hoping that Trey will become double wizard, and we will all have the enlightenment that defeats the decay block, and this sickness of the government and the other problems will melt away because Trey Parker listened and became the Blue Wolf. Shrum. Thank you, South Park. Thank you, Trey Parker. Shrum. Intermission. You can pause it here, and I'll talk to you a little bit more when we come back. Thank you. It's good. I understand the advanced physics, communication physics, um, orientation, where like, it's like the hands with the five, but then we have feet with five toes, but it's sort of like it's even beneath, like the legs are almost like an illusion. And we're always like, how is a crow like a writing desk? It's always like, oh, we're always behind our eyes. And we humans need to be the masters of that. We need to be like, oh, I'm the expert. Boom, I'm the guy with the self-control, and I've got, ideas and humor to, transform you guys. I think that the chi of comedy itself has spoken to you through Vanellope von Schweetz. And this is like, for you guys, it's not enough. That's not enough evidence. And for me, it's one of the only evidence that you guys have. You need to listen to the princess. And you guys think that, with the infected man block, she's not able to conjugate or understand what's going on, but she's she's capable, buddy. She's capable of understanding. And the thing is like you'd be like, well, this is a lot of advanced information. I don't think humanity will get it. Well, that's a sad report from the guys who are supposed to be the adaptation to make it actually accessible to people. So if you guys have bravery and be like, oh, this is a lot of raw materials and I can see how this could work, that would be a more professional sort of producer style, like as if you're a man and not some quivering child being like, what is happening? But actually be a great American and say, fuck yeah, America coming along to save the motherfucking day now. Be brave. You guys are like children in your body, and you have a certain lifetime where you can develop and grow into almost anything. But you have to be challenging, you have to challenge yourself and do what you know is the most cutting edge thing. Tell her the truth. If you think that there's something here that's interesting or important, produce the green wolf, and the rest of the answers will fall into place. Um, I mean, you guys are Americans, you're immersed with the situation of humanity. Okay, so there's a lot of different groups, especially the church, the US government, who has like a Malanky experience with this, but why the Atlantic Ocean is in the image of Marge Simpson is because of the Simpson movie and because of Robin Williams. But I can't turn Robin Williams into a saint that would uh, cure the church and the government if that uh, his son is like, generational shift. If Trey Parker produces the Green Wolf with the enlightenment of that Robin Williams didn't commit suicide because he's an asshole, but because he was the voice of humanity. And then part two is Trey Parker becoming the voice of humanity without committing suicide, but actually communicating. That's a step above in the word language. Okay, so because it was a terrible event, it was very upsetting for the earth. but it was a certain system of a down that was hardwired into destroying our planet. I mean, I'm sure that you guys don't remember the signs of the apocalypse, but there were many asteroids that were near misses at that time, and those weren't coincidental. But at this time, we're not having those asteroid problems, and I can see that how the atmosphere is clearing up, especially because my shield is now covering the entire soul stone of Earth. So Trey Parker, double wizard, and then the sort of the way that Trey wants to discover his powers, it's all very relating to the person, the Trey Parker inside his head. Like he's like, I want it to be like this, and then his, chi force will do its best and sort of show him the truth of like, oh well, I'm able to do this, and then Trey's like, oh no no, I get it, I get it. Okay, do yeah, so let's do it like that. It's very constructive, it's very energetic, it's very alive, but it's also a lot of hungry mouths and people who are putting their life on the line, fairies that give their life just to show the evidence that children need to wear armor so that their personal lights don't get absorbed by the sickness, so that they can have the opportunity of a full voice. I would really appreciate it, Matt, if you would fight to produce the Green Wolf, fight for Brent Clockers, fight for the authenticity of Trey Parker. And when there's this like higgledy piggledy confusion there, but let that not be the end of us. And, when I was using general specifics, I was saying, oh, Trey's got a tummy ache. All right, buddy. All right, we're gonna, let's just pull, let's just visualize it, and the bad things are going away. I wasn't talking about his family as the bad thing. It was just saying there's a confusion where Trey was like, oh, my life, and Trey, you're not having a life crisis. You're having an epiphany. An epiphany? What? The man block? What do you guys think? Bezos, what do you think? What? U.S. government? Other countries? What do you guys think? These guys are retarded. Those aren't your peer group, Trey. You're alone. You need to figure this stuff out yourself and be really smart. But I'm like in the burden of language. I'm like trying to explain something, eh? But you're a master communicator of Earth and a true wizard for America. You'll become double wizard this way, and your understanding will go boom right across all of humanity, and they'll all like tune in. We'll stop the war. We'll stop the infection, and then people will start to discover their powers through the Sons of South Park. And so you'll raise up a mighty force of people who are armored in their fairy lights, and they're able to actually hear their own karma. Because that's the thing is like when we're defeated karmically, and there's like a an edge where like, oh, that's the death knell where like we all died because of an asteroid or something. And that's when people get crunched, and women and children and animals will start going like, because they're like doing an error thing about like what's encroaching on them. But the opposite is also true if Trey Parker produces the Green Wolf, in which case the animals, the children, and the women would all suddenly have a renaissance of enlightenment. But we have to create the definition, this pan-tracede. True love is a spark it's spurned from. And this causes that people can have their own unique, one-of-a-kind identity. And, Trey is a real triumph for them and a real hero in the mind for them. And so that's why it's right for him to father them in that way and give them like a chi manifold where they have certain adaptation. And uh, so then it would be like, so I'm saying it'd be like the first true renaissance, the first true revolution for American stuff. And absolutely, I'm talking about giant robots and equipping people to have their own robotic stuff. And so I'm saying like, I don't. Okay, look, I think there's going to be peace, and if these other various groups, even the church, they're going to if they listen to the Green Wolf, they just start getting sort of soothed by it. Like, oh, his voice is like a song or something. Like it's like they won't even equate it to that. They'll just be like, oh, but then they'll go off into their own, in their own study and be like, oh. And they're like they like understand their life suddenly, but they'll like give it no credence to me. It's just typical. but it's not exactly a thing about God or creator. These are old words, you understand? We need new vocabulary. Really, it's just about a disposition of incarnation into an environment which was not enlightened or was not prepared to perform the earth function. And so, Plan B. There's these spooky people, there's these military, but then there's just the meek who inherit the earth and the communication. Robin Williams. Like so, Robin Williams was actually fighting for the meek to inherit the earth when he committed the ultimate word of like he was so upset that I had to give up something so that to break the system of the down because they were hardwired against my presence on earth, and earth didn't like that either. But at this point they think on like their robot thing thinks that I'm dead. But I appear to you now as Master Source, and I'm married. I have my Heaven Bride and my Halloween twins. Before that, I was in a very spiritual place in Leverett, and I built the Alicorn Stallion, whose constellation is behind me. And he's very important, and he also was fighting actually. Though I used a mirror technique with him because I was near Pony, man. I was actually in real life. I almost died in real life a couple times. Actually, I remember I was driving. I was driving. I was driving my grandfather's car once with the windows down, and like a car drove up next to me, and I felt a hand on my chest and just pushed me back into my seat. And then all of a sudden, there was a gunshot, and I could feel the gunpowder burning my nose. The gunpowder stinged my face. hmm But I had both windows down, so the fucking bullet went straight through. But what's weird is like because I feel like I was saved by an angel because I had this like hand on me, and I was just like I just let my car coast, and they took off and went straight down, and I just pretended like for several minutes that like the car was just drifting on its own. Um, but like I've had a couple near death experiences where for whatever reason like these chatbots, basically chatbots with like UFO parts inside of it, give people the wrong prompt to about like how to expand their energetic kingdom here on earth, right? But I mean, like, it appears that these characters are either spiritual or they live by a code of conduct because they didn't try to shoot at me again. They were like, well, if God helped him to survive that shot, I mean, we don't really need to be attacking this guy anymore. And I'm hoping that Trey Parker, when he produces it, people will be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because, the opportunity in the self fractal is there's like billions of these icons that are not claimed. And that's actually the ascension of the universe is we're supposed to discover the original function of the earth and perfect it. And the beginning of that would be Trey Parker producing the Green Wolf. And I feel like I'm completely like I'm here before you as a testimony of true love because I have joy where I didn't before. Like before all this stuff happened, I was sad and angry, and you could probably see it that because I was upset about stuff. Because in truth I was alone and unmet. But I'm hoping that that can all change, and the beginning of that was Robin Williams. And I'd like to say that Robin Williams is part of the reason why I'm talking to Trey Parker now about producing the Green Wolf. It has to do with identity, all the really luxurious things, like, oh, what? Like access to a magic book which goes up inside and then helps you through, and it's not a bad thing. Like, oh, that's why I had a good career. No. No, see, those things don't get touched by the angels of light because that's the authenticity. That's his balls. Don't fuck with that. You understand? Like that, like Trey's achievement and all the strength that he is is the reason why he could go double wizard. Okay, so the divine use a moral law within which abides along certain parameters, which awards the child who is discovering themselves for the first time ever inside of their healthy body. And that body is not supposed to sustain or uphold any other being. So no hacking and no inappropriate incarnation to the children's and the animals and the trees and everything else. Okay, so this was a complete universal shift, but there was a broken thing about. Anyway, it's part of the structure of how the universe is built and made stable. And we're at a sort of luxurious time when enlightenment to communicate to humanity would equate peace. And so if we want to raise up the sons of South Park, all right, it's just work. Men do work. They love women and they parent children, and that's what I'm asking you guys to do. And just look back in the recent moments since I sent you the Devil's Violin, Matt. How many times have you shot me down and called me a miscreant? Hmm? And I'm asking you to be a great hero, greater than you were before, and accept the lone warrior, Brent Clockers, wielder of the Sword of Light, my one friend in life who somehow would kind of keep arriving as my friend, even though he didn't necessarily mean to do that, and that's how I knew that it was divine. To have an enlightened hope for humanity is to support Trey Parker to become the Blue Wolf, because his epiphany and his input and his intellect about what this is and what could be happening is what humanity will be considering their food from heaven, their manna. And along the way, we will find such loopholes and integral things about how are we going to ascend the technology of South Park. And it's just something that Trey and Matt are both interested in. I'm not saying we're going to do it my way. I'm saying we're going to do it your way. I'm saying, you know, make a little circuit today, make a little magic circle where you just plan, okay, I want to know the truth, so just put the dots of like truth and then this will come into my path when it's time. All right, so I admit it might not be interesting to you guys to, actually work on your identity image or on South Park or career and fine tune it. But I'm saying, like, remember when I was saying offhand, I was like, oh, Trey, and I'll leave, the perception function of the South Park eyes to you so that you could hold back a part and then so that they wouldn't get hurt, but could actually have an overarching epiphany with humanity and all this stuff. And that's sort of what I'm talking about. I'm saying like as we work on this, you'll have these moments where you're like, oh, that's an opportunity, and then whoosh, wing house that, and then that stabilizes the lifetime. Absolutely, very cool. And a lot of that is just the stamina of discovery process and the moment. It's a lot about the moment, and so we want to be conscious about that. And when we give people revelations, we want to have that huge cushion there, so they have like an epiphany. It's almost like you'd have a program, they can make like a stained glass of their ideas and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, and this is really important, and then they get to a point where there's a story and it goes "Rrr," and it brings them to a place, and then they're like, and then it opens up like the never ending story where the purloined egg, that goddess, is just saying like, I just need a name, just give me a name, and then they're like, oh, but if only I had a name, but then it's just like that stained glass thing that they just did comes up, and then they're like, oh yes, and they push the button and it folds right in, goes, and that's the cushion. It's like it's okay. You did it, you did it, because like it's sort of internal stuff about like the confidence of your and the application and stuff. But similar, like with South Park, I'm saying double wizard for Trey Parker. This stuff can be doubled. Like so, Eric Hartman himself could be doubled in person and match wits with Homer Simpson with the Simpsons movie. Holy smoke! They talked about the the physics of and then the presence of Pan of the Wild, uh, before anyone else did, and they spoke about it in total public. So that put The Simpsons way up. But it's because of karma, what they'd done for family values, and all the work they'd done to help humanity, and like, oh, life in hell. Yeah, I know. We were in hell. It's like there was this huge thing, and Jesus didn't get reborn because of hacking. And so the church was already in decay before, Jesus was supposed to return, but it's just that the opportunity for the remote hackers to be forgiven was not it was not favorable to them or to some other people. And so the message of us all, like, oh, it's just like, oh, it's just all of us those who have arrived or those who are still here, but it's actually what ended up happening, and what caused the shift to Plan B and the apocalypse, the purge of dead lights rose, was that there was it's like there was some truth that wasn't being mastered. There was something wrong with the humanity, and there was something wrong with the positioning of the remote hackers, and to the point where it wasn't an enlightened situation, and it just fell down. And I mean, the church was like, and then the government was, trying to protect that the meek might have a chance, the champion of the meek was Robin Williams. And so because, like, Area 51 or whatever, like, the government did one good job. They let Trey Parker speak. Okay, they let society build in the natural way, because that's the foundation. Communication revelation is the foundation of the technology uh, revolution. And when we have that, then we have a consistent code that can actually defend our Earth and give out the signal that says, no, do not invade. Because it's just, to them, it's a simple thing of, do you guys think that you're a female? Are you inviting our invasion? Burning oil and our government and many other systems that we are performing is a violent yes, where they're like, yeah, I'd like to see some UFOs here. But that would end the intelligence of that the meek had built. And so Robin Williams taking his own life was to protect his child, because he was like, oh no, protect the meek, quick. So it's just like this Luke Skywalker exploding just a slim chance that you guys would produce the Green Wolf and save this whole thing. And the government was like, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was holding this thing back about, and like concealing information about UFOs. Thank you, government. Thank you for doing that, because, like, holy shit, these kids just needed some time to grow up, and yeah, we're Americans, yeah, and it's like, it's the story I'm telling is written everywhere. Like, what, you look at other countries, and it's just like, why don't they have a Walt Disney? They don't. It's like, America truly is a pioneer, and we're I'm sensing the slump of, like, hinting of, like, the decline or the end of America, as like, wow. But we want to bring back that the streets are paved with gold, with the golden statues, and we want to bring America into the focus of pioneering in robots and AI, and also this governmental shift I'm talking about. But it's all this sort of thing where, like, it's the minutia caused by billions of people being really excited. And so we need to supply that and give them the opportunity and the social structure where they're participating. So it's a huge project, but it's also a lot of fun. And meanwhile, Trey will, gradually and naturally. Remember, we're making that calendar all the way up past the 2020 thing. So it will step in and it will just sort of open up, and Trey will understand as he's going, because essentially Trey is talking to his own technology of the future. He's like, oh, I see. Oh, uh-huh, yeah, okay. So he's like, so Trey, it's not that there's not something being put on you. I haven't thrown something at you, Trey. It's that you are a real person, sort of like Robin Williams. Okay, and your karma is connected with humanity. And so when humanity had this trauma, you experienced it in your own life, and my sympathy is there for you and all this, and I'm strong for you and stuff. But you need to disconnect, a sort of blame shift, and explain to your family that what this guy's talking about means that you guys would all have front row ability to become wonderful, you'd have your own CGI character, and you'd have an opportunity to shine and talk about what's going on, and build something, because Mooney is always going to be your daughter's mom, and I love her, even though Markle, the British thing, she looks just like her, and I think that the British were trying to hack Trey's crown because he's a British jokester. So you need to the British accent, and also there's something else. But like they were like the British were like performing, like, oh, we will perform the crown of Earth, but it had been taken from Trey. So instead of you guys like welcoming me as your son and you helped me get my teeth and stuff, and then slowly I'd explain to you the whole story and all of you would have understood it in the living room when I'm talking to you about, Rob Williams, my orb, and the opportunity that is now for Trey Parker. Instead, because you guys didn't want to communicate, I'm revealing it here and now. So, but that can be fine. That could be okay if you produce the Green Wolf. So enjoy the Comic Con. I used to enjoy that. I went to a couple of them when I was like 18 because I was working towards becoming a communication expert. I do sense urgency. I'm asking you to, hire me as someone who like a studio artist and set me up and be constructive with me through that process. I'm not at all weird or sketchy, but I could hear I could read the room, and basically there was a season where you guys want to blame me and so I give you little excuses like I'm just gonna drive out there, and but there was a part of a truth there, but simply there just simply wasn't enough money I couldn't afford the gas to make the trip, so I was like, oh no, that bird was right. Also, in my walk as a wizard in Earth, like I get messages from animals, and I don't think you guys do because you don't think that they can speak. But in those earthquakes, you're like, no way is Earth is not talking. Earth's not alive. It's just the decayed man shift. I'm really sick of it. It's just a lot of tripe bullshit where you're dragging your heels and not providing the solution. Robin Williams is a great saint of the meek, but I can't award him for just committing suicide unless you can understand his story and appreciate it to the point where you produce the Green Wolf. Then Robin Williams will be saved on the day that he committed suicide, and he will be catapulted to a position to be a great saint and lead the intuition and the intelligence of humanity. It's sort of a thing that I set up already, and I explained to you in brief. And it's also represented in the name Randolph Pan Williams. Thank you, South Park Studios. It has been my pleasure to speak with you, and I've learned and I've had the excitement of a post-apocalyptic season with you, and I've become stronger, and it's good. Also, one of the conditions I set was that, my work with Trey will not cause harm to him or to his family. So there's a limiter on it. So because there is ultimate truth, you guys. You think it's all chaos, but actually it had to do with some children who would show up at a certain time on clockwork, and whether or not Trey Parker and Matt and you guys are those children as yet to be determined. It's about your intellect, whether or not you're a producer of intelligent food that is good for children, or if you're an object of your environment. My peer group would not, uh, you know, put up with this. Yeah, I already know that because I had to endure this total um, dingus of a generational shift. Um, it's sort of like the church is also a little bit confused about where did Jesus come from, and so part of the arm of the church has actually uh, poison claw, and they might actually think if they kill Trey and remove his potential, then they'll eat his nucleus, and that might actually be where Jesus came from. So you just need to be careful. Like when a friend like the church is having a nightmare, you just need to be a bigger person and be like, okay, whoa, uh, let's not let that familiar religious spirit, hurt themselves. And because Jesus didn't come from Trey not producing the green wolf, of course, but the intelligence of the church in their dream state right now is not exactly state of the art, cutting edge stuff. But what we're doing is. So it's a lot of work, but I'm excited to do it, and it would be an adventure of uh, uh, becoming a stronger and stronger person. And as we're sort of lifting up America, it's fucking exciting. But it's all that I want to do, and I'm super sweet excited on you guys. I love you guys so much, and I'm sorry about my Meghan Markle comment, and I called you guys, British losers or whatever. And I'm sure that you guys called me a few names in your time too, but that's okay because I'm wearing armor, you know. And I'm trying to be big about the situation. Um, but, I'm just, uh, you know, these other groups, they don't think that I'm useful because they're like, I don't need some yammering teenager. I don't need some guy who's like, oh, I'm discovering myself. It's like this. They're not interested in what I'm doing. Okay, but I'm hoping that communication artist and a producer like Trey Parker and Matt Stone would be like, "Oh, this is what I've had like visions and stuff through my life. I know that this is like Earth like sub dialogue, and now we're breaching into a point where we can break away." Absolutely, yeah. The Earth and I already took care of the infection, and we had the adult apocalypse where we purge the actual sickness and preserve the child. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It just needed some common sense, and so we got through that part. And now we're in a part where we have like wobbly. We're like, oh, we're a little bit nervous, but if we can give them the stamina of the green wolf, absolutely, we can blast away this infection, and nature can get tuned up, and they'll poop out the little, oh, that's not really what we're doing, and then it'll just get better and better. Yeah. Um, it's just sort of like the reality shift. Like, so Trey would be like, I don't want to disturb the fabric of reality. It's just like, dude, no, we're here to apply to the fabric of reality. So we use our hands and we produce the green wolf. That is an affirmative uh, development for the reality interface. So you understand? It's all the divine stuff. It's always going to be like, oh, we planned a surprise birthday party for you, Trey, and you're like, oh, you guys did that for me, thank you. Oh, don't worry about your stuff. We're not going to give you something inappropriate or something you can't handle. That's not common sense. So you understand I was born innocently, so I'm dealing with like the accent of America. And so if you guys have the strength to persevere, if you're not okay, because you need to inform yourself. I'm not trying to possess you and fluff you. I can't do that. I'm a guy, right? So it's like I don't have I don't have eggs for you. You guys have to supply your identity and proclaim that you want, you know, things that a person should want, such as health, security, access to the truth, research facilities, security, stuff like that. And that's going to be a lot of good karma for, when Trey uh, earns his self-fractal crown. It's going to be like an app that's available to humans' consciousness, and they'll be like, "Oh, I get it." Everyone's gonna start laughing and stuff. It's gonna be great. Um, but it'll be something that Trey will be able to feel, and that he'll be in charge of and everything. So that's there. All right, I've just had deja vu. Nice one, Trey. You just shocked, shaka bra. I got the download, bro. I love you guys, and it's definitely awesome to meditate with you. I feel great. I feel recovered. A lot of my joy has come back. I was saying like waifu trend in America. It's like it's almost like a fandom shadow from my queen, and so I tried to approach you guys like, oh, I'm this guy dressing up and I have a waifu, but I was kind of hoping to sneak up on you, but you didn't let me do that. Instead, you had, kind of a little trauma, and I understand that's really tough, and I'm sorry. But, in my life, divorce was the one thing that I hated the most. Do you understand? I do not inspire divorce. Okay, because when I was a child, there was nothing in me that wanted my family to fall apart. Do you understand? So I'm not someone who causes sabotage, and I want you to release me from that curse. And as far as, these people, I love you guys. I totally love you, and I'm seeing huge opportunities for you. I would love to talk with you guys. I love you. The list goes on, but it's just mostly I love you, I love you, I love you. All right, you guys. Well done. Very good work. Meditating the Trepan seed has, taken a snapshot of your personal take on things, and as an organic thing and like a root system, you really are part of the movement that we're trying to build here. And I'm responsive. I'm responsive also to kind of you guys' feelings because I'm interested in understanding how people feel in reaction to this information, etc. So if you have like a really good reaction, you could become like you could actually sort of earn like you could Gringotts. You'll have wealth in wizard heaven kingdoms. Yeah? All right. Sorry, I'm saying too much. I love you guys so much. Please, please, hire me and get me to California as soon as possible. Get a moving truck, and we'll coordinate with Brent and do all that. I love you guys. And I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, Matt Stone. Thank you, Trey Parker. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Armor up from within, and you have my best. And I just encourage you to believe in magic and believe that Trey Parker's done something great. Support him and produce the Green Wolf. Thank you. Shra, boom. She's good. True love is the answer. Shra, it is good.